Have you ever stood at the threshold of a new chapter in life, feeling both the weight of what you've lost and the uncertainty of what lies ahead? Perhaps you found yourself alone after decades of partnership, or maybe you're considering a move that would give you more independence, but also more responsibility. That moment of transition can feel like standing on the edge of a cliff, unsure if you're about to fall or fly. For millions of adults in their golden years, living independently isn't just a preference, it's a powerful statement about how they wish to age. Yet the challenge of maintaining that independence while creating a meaningful, connected life can seem overwhelming. How do you build a fulfilling life on your own terms when society often suggests that aging means gradual withdrawal from active living? In today's video, we'll explore 11 essential practices that can transform the experience of living alone in your later years from one of isolation and uncertainty to one of purpose, connection, and even joy. These aren't just theoretical ideas, they're practical approaches that have helped countless individuals create lives of dignity, meaning, and independence well into their 70s, 80s, and beyond. Before we dive into these practices, I invite you to subscribe to our channel. Your journey toward purposeful aging deserves consistent support. To help you see this more clearly, I want to tell you a nice story. Amanda Wilson stood at the window of her small cottage, watching as storm clouds gathered over the ocean. The rhythmic pounding of waves against the shore echoed the turbulence in her heart. Just 2 months ago, she had moved to this picturesque coastal town of Waverley Cove, leaving behind the home she had shared with her husband for 43 years. Now, at 75, she found herself alone, surrounded by unpacked boxes and unfamiliar corners that felt nothing like home. "Aunt Amanda, are you sure about this?" Her nephew Oliver's concerned voice interrupted her thoughts as he placed a cup of tea beside her. "There's a lovely assisted living community just 30 minutes from my house. You wouldn't have to worry about maintenance or being alone." Amanda straightened her shoulders, summoning the dignity that had carried her through a career as a respected literature professor. "I appreciate your concern, Oliver, but I'm perfectly capable of living on my own. This is my choice." Yet later, after Oliver had gone, Amanda sank into her armchair and surveyed the cottage. Had she made a terrible mistake? Her days had become an empty routine of basic tasks, making simple meals, taking short walks to the mailbox, then retreating back to the silence of these walls. She barely interacted with anyone, rarely ventured beyond necessary errands, and had begun neglecting even the simplest self-care routines. Was this really living or merely existing? "You need someone to talk to at least," Oliver had insisted before leaving. "What about adopting a dog? The local shelter has plenty of older ones that need homes." That's how Griffin, an elderly golden retriever with soulful eyes and a graying muzzle, came to join Amanda in her solitude. On their third morning together, as Amanda reluctantly clipped on his leash for their required walk, she noticed her neighbor on his porch, gazing out at the sunrise with a mug of coffee in hand. "Morning," he called out, raising his mug in greeting. "I'm Leo Hartman. You must be the new resident of Cottage 7. Amanda nodded, surprised by the unexpected interaction. "Amanda Wilson," she replied, her voice slightly rusty from disuse. Leo, she would soon learn, was 80 years old and had lived alone in Lighthouse Point for over 20 years after a lifetime at sea. Something in his weathered face and steady gaze suggested a man who had found peace with solitude, not merely enduring it, but embracing it. Little did Amanda know that this chance encounter would be the first step in a journey that would transform her experience of living alone, a journey through 11 essential practices that would help her not just survive this new chapter, but thrive within it. The next morning, Amanda found herself hesitating at her front door, Griffin's leash in, and the morning was cool and misty, typical for Waverley Cove in early spring. To her surprise, Leo was once again at his post on the porch, seemingly undeterred by the weather. "Same time every day," he called out with a smile when he noticed her. "Watching. Rain or shine, calm or storm, the ocean doesn't take a day off, and neither do I." Amanda ventured closer, curiosity momentarily overcoming her reluctance for social interaction. "You watch the sunrise every morning?" "First essential practice of living well on your own," Leo said, extending a weathered hand to pat Griffin. "Creating a morning ritual that connects you to something larger than yourself. When you live alone, it's easy to drift. A ritual anchors you to each new day." Amanda frowned slightly. "I've never been one for routines. They always felt restrictive." Leo's laugh was warm and genuine. "Not a routine, Amanda. A ritual. There's a world of difference. A routine is something you check off a list. A ritual is something that nourishes your soul." He gestured to the horizon, where hints of pink were beginning to illuminate the clouds. "Every morning I come out here with my coffee and watch the sun rise over the Pacific. Doesn't matter if it's hidden behind clouds or blazing clear. The act itself reminds me that I'm part of something enduring, something that was here long before me and will continue long after." "And that's comforting?" Amanda asked, genuinely curious. "Immensely," Leo nodded. "When you live alone, especially after a loss, the world can start to feel very small. Just you and your four walls. This daily practice expands it again." The first essential practice for thriving while living independently is establishing a meaningful morning ritual that connects you to the natural world. This isn't about creating a rigid schedule of tasks, but rather about developing a sacred space in time that grounds you at the start of each day. For you, this might be watching the sunrise like Leo, or perhaps sitting in your garden with morning tea, observing the birds. It could be a gentle walk around your neighborhood as the world awakens, or simply standing in your doorway and taking 10 deep breaths of fresh air. The specific activity matters less than the intention behind it and the consistency with which you practice it. What makes this particularly powerful is the connection to something larger than yourself. In moments of solitude, our worlds can contract. A daily ritual that places us within the context of the natural world reminds us that we are never truly alone. We are participants in an ongoing cosmic story. Skeptical at first, Amanda, nonetheless, found herself drawn to Leo's porch the following morning, coffee mug in hand. They sat in comfortable silence as the sky transitioned from indigo to lavender to gold. To her surprise, she felt a subtle shift in her perspective. The vast ocean before her made her own troubles seem smaller, more manageable. The ancient Stoics practiced something similar, Leo mentioned, as they watched the fishing boats head out to sea. They called it the view from above, imagining yourself as part of the greater universe to gain perspective on your troubles. Over the next few weeks, Amanda developed her own version of this ritual, a morning walk with Griffin along the shoreline. The rhythmic sounds of waves and the feel of cool sand beneath her feet became a form of moving meditation, a gentle transition into each new day. One particularly foggy morning, Amanda encountered Leo in town, outside a red brick building with large windows displaying colorful artwork. "Just the person I wanted to see," he said warmly. "I'm heading to the library for the memoir writing group. I think you might enjoy it." Amanda instinctively shook her head. "Oh, I couldn't possibly. I haven't written anything creative in decades. My field was literary analysis, not creation." "Perfect qualification if you ask me," Leo replied with a gentle persistence. "Besides, Iris is expecting you." "Iris?" "Iris Bloom, our town librarian. Dynamo of a woman, 68 going on 30. She runs most of the senior programs here." Before Amanda could formulate another excuse, she found herself being ushered through the library doors and into a warm, light-filled space. Books lined every wall, but it was the art display in the center of the room that caught her attention. Photographs, pottery, and handwritten stories created by community members, most of them seniors. "You must be Amanda," a woman with silver-streaked auburn hair approached, her eyes bright with intelligence and warmth. "Leo mentioned you might join us. I'm Iris." "I'm not really a writer," Amanda began, but Iris waved away her protest. "Were you not a literature professor for 30 years? Leo mentioned it. I'd say you know a thing or two about good writing." "Analyzing is different from creating," Amanda insisted. Iris smiled knowingly. "Perhaps, but both require passion. Which brings me to the second essential practice for thriving on your own, developing a creative passion project." Amanda looked skeptical. "A passion project? Something that makes your heart beat faster," Iris explained, leading Amanda toward the memoir group gathering in a corner nook. "When you live alone, it's vital to have something that pulls you forward into each day, something that engages your mind and spirit in equal measure. The second essential practice is cultivating a creative passion project that stimulates your intellect and feeds your soul. This doesn't mean you need to produce museum-quality art or publishable writing. The value lies in the process, not the end product. What matters is that you engage regularly with something that absorbs your attention and gives you a sense of purpose. For many who live alone, especially after retirement, the absence of external structure can lead to a sense of aimlessness. A passion project provides internal structure, a reason to get up in the morning that comes from within rather than from external obligations. Your passion project might be writing your memoirs or family history, learning to paint or play an instrument, mastering a craft like woodworking or quilting, researching your genealogy, or even creating a beautiful garden. The key is that it should be something you find personally meaningful and engaging, not something you feel obligated to do. As the Stoics would remind us, focusing our energy on activities that align with our values and natural talents brings a profound sense of satisfaction that external achievements rarely match. This internal focus of control becomes increasingly important as we age and may need to release certain external activities. "I don't know what I'd write about," Amanda admitted as she took a seat in the circle. "Start with what you know," an elderly gentleman suggested. "I was an accountant for 40 years. Didn't think I had stories until I started writing about the human side of numbers, the families I helped, the businesses I watched grow." Hesitantly, Amanda began attending the weekly memoir sessions. At first, her writing was stiff and academic, but gradually she found herself weaving her love of literature with personal experiences, how certain books had shaped her understanding of life, how she'd used stories to navigate her own challenges. "You're coming alive on the page," Iris observed one day, weeks later. "I can hear your voice now. What are your thoughts on this? Comment below so we can know what you think." Continuing, the process awakened something in Amanda that had been dormant, a creativity she hadn't known she possessed, a perspective unique to her experiences. The hours she spent writing became a highlight of her week, time when she was fully engaged rather than simply passing time. One afternoon, as Amanda was returning from the library, she noticed Leo struggling to carry groceries while managing his cane. Without thinking, she hurried to help him. "Much appreciated," he said with genuine gratitude. "Some days the arthritis wins the battle." "Happy to help," Amanda replied, surprised to realize she meant it. "That's what neighbors do, right?" Leo's eyes twinkled. "Indeed. Which brings us to the third essential practice, building a support network beyond family. Over tea in Leo's cottage, a space that somehow managed to be both nautical and cozy, he introduced Amanda to the Lighthouse Neighbors program. "It's simple," he explained. "We check in on each other daily, share skills and resources, and know who to call in an emergency. Iris coordinates it all through the library." I wouldn't want to be a burden, Amanda said automatically. Leo's expression grew serious. That's everyone's fear, Amanda. But here's the truth. Independence doesn't mean doing everything alone. It means having the wisdom to create systems of interdependence that allow you to live on your terms. The third essential practice is creating a robust support network that extends beyond your family. This network serves multiple purposes: practical assistance, social connection, emergency support, and the profound psychological benefit of knowing you're not facing life's challenges alone. While family relationships are invaluable, they cannot provide all the support you need to live independently. Your adult children may live far away or have demanding responsibilities of their own. Even when they're available, relying exclusively on family can create imbalanced relationships over time. A diverse support network might include neighbors, friends, community groups, faith communities, and local services. The goal is to create a web of connections rather than depending on a single lifeline. This approach distributes both the giving and receiving of help across multiple relationships, making it sustainable for everyone involved. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca noted, no one can live happily who has regard to himself alone and transforms everything into a question of his own utility. When we create networks of mutual support, we not only receive help, but also maintain the essential human dignity that comes from being able to offer assistance to others. Initially resistant, Amanda gradually began participating in the Lighthouse Neighbors program. She started small, collecting Leo's mail when his arthritis flared, watering another neighbor's plants during a hospital stay, receiving help herself when Griffin needed a trip to the vet and she couldn't manage lifting him into the car. Family loves you, Iris explained during a community gathering, but neighbors are there when a pipe bursts at midnight or when you just need someone to share a cup of tea with on an ordinary Tuesday. Amanda discovered that these exchanges of assistance did something unexpected. They made her feel less like a burden and more like a contributing member of a community. Each small favor given or received wove her more securely into the fabric of Lighthouse Point. When Oliver visited again a month later, he was pleasantly surprised by the change in his aunt. Her cottage showed signs of being lived in rather than merely occupied, and she spoke with animation about her writing group and neighbors. "You seem better," he observed. "Happier." "I'm finding my way," Amanda acknowledged, "though I still struggle with feeling cut off from you and Jason." She sighed, thinking of her grandson in college 3 states away. "I miss hearing about his life." Oliver's face brightened. "That's actually something I wanted to talk to you about. I brought something that might help." He reached into his bag and pulled out a tablet. "This is our 4th essential practice, mastering one digital tool that brings genuine value to your life." Amanda's expression immediately clouded. "Oliver, you know how I feel about technology. It changes too quickly, and everything is designed for younger people with perfect vision and infinite patience." "Just one tool, Aunt Amanda," Oliver said, gently. "Not an entire digital universe, just one connection that matters." The 4th essential practice is selectively embracing technology by mastering one digital tool that significantly enhances your quality of life. This isn't about keeping up with every technological trend or becoming a digital native overnight. It's about strategically choosing a single digital capability that addresses a specific need in your life. For many living alone, digital connections can bridge physical distances, especially from family. A video calling application might allow you to see your grandchildren's faces regularly, despite living far apart. An e-reader might make reading accessible again if vision changes have made print books challenging. A well-chosen app might help manage medications or grocery deliveries. The key is selectivity and mastery. Rather than attempting to navigate dozens of applications poorly, focus on becoming truly comfortable with one tool that offers meaningful benefits. Take time to learn it thoroughly, practice regularly, and integrate it into your routine until it feels natural. The Stoics emphasized focusing our energy on things within our control. While we cannot control the pace of technological change, we can control our response to it, choosing thoughtfully, learning deliberately, and using technology as a servant rather than becoming its slave. With remarkable patience, Oliver spent the afternoon showing Amanda how to use video calling on the tablet. He also demonstrated how she could access her beloved books digitally, with the text enlarged for easier reading. "I feel ridiculous," Amanda muttered after her third failed attempt to navigate the screen. "Like I'm back in kindergarten." "Everyone starts somewhere," Oliver assured her. "The difference is that 5-year-olds aren't afraid of looking foolish. They expect to fail a few times before they get it right." That observation struck home. Amanda realized her fear of appearing incompetent had prevented her from learning new skills that could enhance her independence. Over the following weeks, she practiced doggedly. The first successful video call with her grandson Jason brought tears to her eyes. His dormitory room came into focus on her screen, his familiar smile lighting up his face. "Grandma, you're on video! This is awesome!" The technology that had seemed so intimidating became a lifeline to her family. Their weekly calls became a highlight she looked forward to. Jason sharing his college adventures, Amanda reading passages from her memoir writing, both of them connected despite the miles between them. One evening, Amanda was invited to Leo's cottage for dinner. As she entered, she was struck by how different his space felt from her own. Despite being the same basic floor plan, Leo's cottage emanated both security and joy, from the reading nook positioned to capture the last rays of sunset to the walls, adorned with maps of places he'd sailed, to the strategic lighting that created pools of warmth throughout the space. "Your home feels so..." Amanda searched for the right word. "Intentional," Leo suggested, setting a steaming bowl of chowder on the table. That's the 5th essential practice, designing your living space for both safety and joy. Amanda looked around more carefully, noticing details she'd missed. Grab bars were installed near the shower and toilet, but they were beautifully designed to complement the decor. The pathways between furniture were wide and unobstructed, but the arrangement still created intimate conversation areas. Most people focus only on the safety aspects as they age, Leo explained. They install medical-looking equipment and remove beloved rugs without considering the emotional impact of turning their home into what feels like a hospital room. "And the alternative?" Amanda asked. "Balance," Leo said simply, "creating a space that supports your physical needs without sacrificing the visual and emotional elements that make a house feel like home." The 5th essential practice is designing your living environment to support both physical safety and emotional well-being. Your home is more than just shelter. It's the setting for your daily life, a physical manifestation of your relationship with yourself, and often your primary environment. When living alone, the challenge is creating a space that accommodates changing physical needs without institutional feels. This means thoughtfully assessing your home for potential hazards while simultaneously enhancing elements that bring you joy and comfort. Practical safety modifications might include improving lighting, especially in transitional areas like hallways and stairwells, removing trip hazards such as loose rugs or cluttered pathways, installing grab bars in bathrooms, now available in decorative designs, creating a bedroom on the main floor if stairs become challenging, and arranging furniture to provide stable support when moving through rooms. Equally important are the elements that nourish your spirit, arranging your favorite chair to capture natural light for reading, displaying meaningful photographs and artwork where you'll see them regularly, creating dedicated spaces for activities that bring you pleasure, using color, texture and sound to create an atmosphere that feels nurturing. The Stoic emphasis on focusing on what you can control applies perfectly here. While we cannot control the physical changes that may come with aging, we can control how we respond to them through thoughtful environmental design. Inspired by Leo's cottage, Amanda began seeing her own space with new eyes. She realized she'd been treating it as temporary, afraid to fully inhabit it, lest that somehow betrayed the home she'd shared with her husband. Box by box, she began unpacking, not just physically but emotionally, deciding what to keep, what to release, and how. To arrange her space to support her new life, she positioned her desk to face the ocean, creating a writing space that inspired creativity. She hung artwork that had special meaning, installed subtle nightlights along the hallway, and replaced slippery bathroom rugs with non-slip alternatives in her favorite colors. She created a cozy reading nook where Griffin could curl up beside her chair. Gradually, the cottage transformed from a reminder of what she'd lost to an expression of who she was becoming. When Oliver visited again, he noticed the change immediately. "It feels like you now," he observed. Taking in the books arranged by color, the comfortable writing corner, the space is clearly designed for both function and beauty. "You've made it, your own." Amanda smiled, realizing the truth in his words. "I'm learning to create a life that fits me now, not who I was or who others think I should be." One afternoon, Amanda noticed a flyer at the library advertising a community wellness workshop. "Take charge of your health. Knowledge is power," was the title, with Iris listed as the facilitator. "You should come," Iris encouraged when she saw Amanda reading the posting. "It's not what you might expect, not just a list of health tips you've heard 1,000 times." "What is it then?" Amanda asked. "It's about becoming an informed advocate for your own health, the 6th essential practice for thriving independently." The following week, Amanda found herself in the community center's sunlit meeting room, surprised by the diverse group gathered for the wellness workshop. Rather than the lecture on vitamins and exercise she had expected, Iris began with a thought-provoking question. "How many of you have left a doctor's appointment with questions you were afraid to ask, or nodded in understanding when you were actually confused?" Nearly every hand in the room went up, including Amanda's. She recalled numerous appointments after her husband's diagnosis, where she'd been too overwhelmed to process the information, let alone question it. The 6th essential practice for thriving independently is becoming an informed advocate for your own health, Iris explained. "This isn't about diagnosing yourself or dismissing medical expertise. It's about partnering with healthcare providers rather than passively receiving care." The guest speaker, a retired nurse in her 70s, shared practical strategies for preparing for medical appointments, keeping organized health records, researching conditions, and asking effective questions. "Your doctor has the medical knowledge," she explained, "but you have the expertise on your own body and your daily experience." Both perspectives are essential for optimal care. The 6th essential practice is developing the knowledge and skills to actively participate in your healthcare decisions. As we age, health management often becomes more complex, with multiple conditions, specialists, and medications to coordinate. Taking an active role in this process is not just about better health outcomes, it's about maintaining autonomy and dignity. Practical aspects of this practice include maintaining organized records of your medications, conditions, and treatment history that you can easily share with new providers. It means researching your conditions through reliable sources so you can ask informed questions. It includes preparing for appointments by writing down your concerns and questions in advance, and bringing someone with you when complex information will be discussed if that would be helpful. Just as important are the psychological aspects, developing the confidence to speak up when you don't understand something, learning to negotiate with providers about treatment options based on your values and preferences, and trusting your own knowledge of your body's responses and needs. The Stoics emphasize the importance of clear thinking in the face of challenges. When it comes to health decisions, emotional reactions like fear or embarrassment can cloud judgment. Learning to approach healthcare conversations with calm rationality while still honoring your own priorities is a vital skill for maintaining independence. Following the workshop, Amanda began researching her arthritis beyond what her doctor had told her. She discovered exercises specifically designed for her condition and learned about anti-inflammatory foods that might complement her medication. At her next appointment, she brought a list of questions and specific observations about how her symptoms varied throughout the day. "I'm impressed with your research," her doctor commented. "Let's talk about adjusting your treatment plan based on these patterns you've noticed." For the first time, Amanda left a medical appointment feeling empowered rather than diminished. She realized that actively engaging with her health was not about challenging medical authority, but about creating a more effective partnership. One morning, as Amanda was walking Griffin along their usual beach route, she noticed Iris organizing children for story time on the sand. The librarian waved her over enthusiastically. "We're doing beach reads. Story time outside during summer," Iris explained. "Though I'm beginning to think herding cats might be easier than keeping 20 children focused with the ocean calling their names." Amanda laughed, watching as a young boy abandoned the circle to chase a seagull. "I remember those days. I taught freshman literature for decades. Young adults aren't much different from children when spring fever hits." Iris's eyes lit up. "Would you consider reading to them sometime? We have a program where seniors share stories with children. It's our 7th essential practice, finding meaningful ways to contribute to your community." Amanda's immediate instinct was to refuse. What did she have to offer? But as she watched the children's faces light up during Iris's animated reading, something stirred in her, a recognition of the joy that comes from sharing what you love with others. The 7th essential practice is discovering ways to contribute your unique gifts and experience to your community. This practice addresses one of the most profound challenges of aging, the fear of becoming irrelevant or burdensome to society. By finding meaningful avenues for contribution, you maintain your place in the social fabric as a valued member rather than a recipient of services. These contributions need not be grand gestures or formal volunteer positions. They might be as simple as sharing your professional knowledge in community workshops, mentoring a young person in a skill you've mastered, participating in community gardens, or, like Amanda, reading to children. What matters is that the activity allows you to give something of yourself that others genuinely value. The benefits of this practice extend far beyond the good you do for others. Meaningful contribution provides structure to your days, creates opportunities for social connection, and perhaps most importantly, reinforces your sense of personal capability and worth. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus observed, "The human being is born for deeds of kindness." An elderly volunteer at the library crystallized this idea for Amanda when he remarked, "The day I started giving again, instead of just receiving help, was when I truly began to live alone successfully. Helping others reminded me that I still had something valuable to offer despite my limitations." Hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence, Amanda began reading to children once a week at the library. She discovered that her professor skills translated beautifully to engaging young minds, and the children's uninhibited enthusiasm rekindled her own love of storytelling. Their delight when she adopted different voices for characters or built suspense through pacing was immediate and rewarding in a way academic recognition had never been. This new role connected her to other aspects of community life as well. Parents would stop her in the grocery store to thank her for inspiring their children's interest in reading. Other seniors in the program became friends, sharing teaching tips and favorite books. What had begun as a small commitment expanded naturally into a network of meaningful relationships. Several weeks into her new routine, Amanda faced her first major challenge of independent living. A severe storm hit Waverly Cove, causing a pipe to burst in her bathroom. Water pooled on the floor, and despite her frantic efforts with towels and buckets, the situation was quickly becoming overwhelming. Remembering Leo's advice about the neighbor network, she called him in a panic. Within minutes, he arrived with tools and the phone number of an emergency plumber. As they waited for professional help, Leo calmly showed her how to shut off the water main, knowledge she realized she should have had from the beginning. When the immediate crisis had passed, they sat on her porch, watching the storm clouds recede over the ocean. Amanda's hands still trembled slightly from the adrenaline. "I feel foolish," she admitted. "A burst pipe shouldn't feel like a catastrophe, but for a moment there, I was completely overwhelmed." Leo nodded, understanding. "Living alone means you face the squalls yourself. It's natural to feel overwhelmed sometimes. The difference is in how you approach these challenges." He tapped his temple. "It's all about the sailor's mindset, our 8th essential practice." "The sailor's mindset?" Amanda questioned. "Developing a philosophy for embracing change and uncertainty," Leo explained. "At sea, you quickly learn that fighting against the elements is futile. The sailors who survive are those who learn to work with conditions as they are, not as they wish them to be." The 8th essential practice is cultivating a philosophical approach to life's inevitable changes and challenges. This isn't about adopting complex intellectual theories, but rather developing practical wisdom that helps you navigate difficulty with resilience and equanimity. For those living independently in later years, change is a constant companion. Whether it's adapting to new physical limitations, managing unexpected home repairs, navigating healthcare systems, or adjusting to the evolving dynamics of family relationships, how you conceptualize these changes significantly impacts your emotional experience of them. This practice involves consciously choosing how you frame and respond to challenges. It might mean adopting elements of Stoic philosophy with its emphasis on distinguishing between what you can and cannot control. It could involve Buddhist principles about impermanence and non-attachment. Or like Leo, you might develop your own sailor's mindset based on personal experience. Before we continue, if you're committed to finding the best version of yourself, please like the video and subscribe. Now, back to where we were. The common thread is developing mental habits that allow you to work with life's conditions rather than exhausting yourself fighting against them. This doesn't mean passive resignation, but rather strategic adaptation, recognizing reality clearly, conserving your energy for what matters most, and finding creative ways to navigate around obstacles. "When a storm hits at sea," Leo explained, "you don't sail directly into the waves. That's how ships sink. You adjust your course, you secure what's important, you weather the worst of it, and then you assess and repair when conditions improve." This perspective resonated deeply with Amanda. She realized she'd been approaching her transition to living alone as a battle to be won, rather than a journey to be navigated thoughtfully. The burst pipe, while stressful, had actually connected her more deeply to her support network and taught her valuable skills for handling future emergencies. "I suppose independence isn't about handling everything perfectly on your own," she reflected. "It's about developing the resilience to face challenges and the wisdom to know when and how to seek help." Leo smiled approvingly. "Exactly, and recognizing that every challenge like this storm eventually passes." In the following days, as she wrote in her journal about the pipe incident, Amanda realized how much her perspective had shifted since arriving in Waverly Cove. She was developing not just practical skills for independent living, but a more nuanced philosophy about aging itself. During her next visit to the library, Amanda wandered into a back corner she hadn't explored before. There she discovered a collection of handmade books, recorded stories, family cookbooks, and other projects created by community seniors. A small plaque identified them as life legacy projects. Fascinating, aren't they? Iris appeared beside her. Each one represents a distillation of someone's wisdom and experience, created to be shared with future generations. It's our 9th essential practice, creating a legacy project to pass on what you've learned. Amanda picked up a beautifully bound collection of letters between a local fisherman and his wife during World War II. Why is this considered an essential practice? It seems more like a gift to others than something that helps the creator. Iris smiled knowingly. That's where you're wrong. The process of creating these projects is profoundly beneficial for the creator. It requires reflection on what truly matters in your life experience. It creates meaning. It helps you see the arc of your life as a cohesive story rather than disconnected events. The 9th essential practice is developing a legacy project that captures and shares your unique wisdom, experiences, or skills. This isn't about creating a grand monument to yourself, but rather about thoughtfully considering what aspects of your life journey might benefit others, particularly younger generations. Legacy projects take countless forms, from written memoirs or recorded oral histories to recipe collections with the stories behind family traditions, from skill-based tutorials that preserve crafts you've mastered to letters of advice for grandchildren to open at different life milestones. What unifies these diverse projects is the intention to distill something meaningful from your experience and share it in a way that outlasts you. The process of creating such a project offers multiple benefits. It provides a structured opportunity for life review, a psychological process associated with increased well-being in later years. It requires you to identify the most meaningful aspects of your experience, which often brings clarity and perspective. And it addresses the universal human desire to feel that our lives have mattered, that something of our unique perspective will continue beyond our physical presence. As the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote in his personal journals, later published as Meditations, reflecting on one's life experiences and extracting meaning from them is essential to living well. Your legacy project becomes a tangible expression of this reflective process. Amanda found herself drawn to the idea of creating a legacy project that combined her professional knowledge with her personal experience, a collection exploring how literature had shaped her understanding of life's key transitions. She began jotting ideas, considering which books had provided guidance during her own challenges and how she might frame these insights for others. The project gave her writing a new purpose beyond self-expression. She was no longer simply processing her own journey. She was crafting something that might help others navigate similar terrain. This shift in focus energized her creative process and deepened her sense of connection to both past and future generations. During her next video call with her grandson Jason, Amanda shared her legacy project idea. His enthusiastic response surprised and delighted her. "That's awesome, Grandma. I'd actually love to hear which books helped you through major life changes. Could you include the ones that helped after Grandpa died? I'm taking a course on grief literature next semester." Their conversation shifted from casual catching up to a meaningful exchange of ideas. Jason shared perspectives from his contemporary literature class. Amanda offered insights from her years of teaching classics. Neither was merely humoring the other. They were genuinely engaged in mutual learning. After the call, Amanda reflected on how differently she felt compared to her earlier conversations with Jason, which had often felt superficial or obligatory. This led her to recognize the 10th essential practice, cultivating meaningful relationships with younger generations. The 10th essential practice is developing authentic connections with people younger than yourself, whether family members or others in your community. These intergenerational relationships offer unique benefits that same-age friendships, while valuable, cannot provide. For those living independently in later years, relationships with younger people provide mental stimulation through exposure to different perspectives and new ideas. They offer opportunities to share your accumulated wisdom in contexts where it's genuinely valued. They help you stay connected to evolving cultural trends and technologies. And perhaps most importantly, they combat the age segregation that often leads to isolation for older adults. These relationships work best when they're built on genuine mutual interest rather than obligation. This might mean connecting with grandchildren around shared passions rather than generic family time. It could involve mentoring younger colleagues in your former profession, participating in intergenerational community programs, or simply cultivating friendships with younger neighbors based on common interests. The key is approaching these relationships with authentic curiosity about others' experiences, rather than merely waiting for opportunities to dispense wisdom. The Stoics emphasize the importance of learning throughout life, and younger generations offer windows into evolving perspectives that can enrich your own understanding. Amanda began intentionally deepening her relationships with younger people. In her community, she invited Iris's assistant, a graduate student in library science, to join her for coffee and a conversation about how literature programming had evolved. She asked Jason thoughtful questions about his generation's approach to relationships and career paths, genuinely interested in understanding rather than judging these differences. These conversations energized her in unexpected ways, giving her fresh perspectives on long-held assumptions and keeping her mind active and engaged with evolving ideas. She found herself less likely to dismiss new concepts as passing trends and more willing to consider how the world continued to change in meaningful ways. During one of their morning coffee sessions overlooking the ocean, Leo noticed Amanda watching the waves with particular intensity. "Penny, for your thoughts?" he asked, settling into his chair beside her. "I was just thinking about how different the ocean looks every day," she replied. "Sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent. My emotions feel a bit like that lately. More changeable than they used to be," Leo nodded. "That's common when you live alone after years of partnership. Without someone else's rhythms influencing yours, you become more aware of your own emotional tides." He paused. "That's where our 11th essential practice comes in. Embracing a mindfulness practice for emotional resilience." "I'm not much for meditation," Amanda said skeptically. "Sitting cross-legged chanting Om seems a bit, well, not me," Leo laughed. "Who said anything about chanting? Mindfulness takes many forms. For me, it's this." He gestured toward the ocean, watching the sea with full attention, noticing my thoughts and feelings without getting swept away by them, just as I would observe the waves without being pulled under. The 11th essential practice is developing a regular mindfulness practice that builds emotional awareness and resilience. Living alone, particularly after a significant loss or life transition, often brings emotional challenges. Without the buffering presence of daily companionship, feelings may seem more intense or persistent. A mindfulness practice provides tools for navigating this emotional landscape with greater ease. Contrary to common misconceptions, mindfulness doesn't require sitting in silence for hours or adopting specific spiritual beliefs. At its core, mindfulness is simply the practice of paying attention to your present experience, including thoughts, emotions, physical sensations, and surroundings, with curiosity and without judgment. This practice can take countless forms, from formal meditation to mindful walking, from focused breathing exercises to attentive engagement in everyday activities. The benefits of mindfulness for those living independently are particularly valuable. Regular practice helps you recognize emotional patterns before they escalate, reduces rumination on past regrets or future worries, improves sleep quality, and enhances your ability to find joy in simple daily experiences. Perhaps most importantly, it helps you develop a compassionate relationship with yourself, an essential foundation for thriving on your own. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus observed, "It's not what happens to you, but how you respond that matters." Mindfulness creates a crucial pause between experience and reaction, allowing you to choose your response rather than being driven by automatic habits or overwhelming emotions. Iris introduced Amanda to journaling as a form of mindfulness, showing her how to record not just events, but her responses to them, tracking patterns and insights over time. Leo shared his simple breathing practice for moments when anxiety threatened to overwhelm him. Amanda discovered her own form of mindfulness in her evening walks with Griffin along the shore. She practiced being fully present to the sensations, the cool sand beneath her feet, the salt-tinged air, the rhythmic sound of waves. When difficult emotions arose, she learned to acknowledge them without resistance, observing how they moved through her like weather patterns, sometimes intense but always changing. The key, Leo explained during one of their conversations, is not to eliminate difficult emotions, that's impossible, but to develop a different relationship with them. To recognize that you can experience grief or fear or loneliness without being defined or overwhelmed by them. This practice helped Amanda navigate the inevitable difficult days that came with living alone. On the anniversary of her husband's death, rather than isolating herself as she might have previously, she honored her grief while still going about her day, attending her writing group, walking Griffin, having tea with Leo. The sadness was present, but it no longer consumed her entirely. Over time, she discovered an unexpected benefit of this emotional awareness: greater capacity for joy. By fully attending to positive moments rather than allowing her mind to race ahead to worries or backward to regrets, she found herself experiencing deeper appreciation for simple pleasures: a perfect sunset, a delicious meal, a moment of connection with a friend. 6 months after her move to Waverley Cove, Amanda hosted a small gathering in her cottage. Over tea and homemade cookies, she welcomed Oliver, Leo, Iris, and several new friends from the Lighthouse Point community. Griffin dozed contentedly at her feet as afternoon sunlight cast a golden glow through windows now adorned with plants and colorful curtains. "I hardly recognize this place," Oliver remarked, taking in the transformation of both the cottage and his aunt. Gone was the hesitant, withdrawn woman he'd worried about months earlier. In her place sat someone engaged and present, with a quiet confidence that hadn't been there before. "It's amazing what a few essential practices can do," Amanda replied with a smile, catching Leo's knowing glance from across the room. As they shared stories and laughter, Amanda reflected on how profoundly her experience of living alone had changed. The cottage no longer felt like an empty shell, but a sanctuary she had created. Her days had structure and meaning. Her connections with others, both in Waverley Cove and across the miles, had deepened. Most importantly, she had discovered that living alone didn't mean living in isolation. "When I first came here," she told her guests, "I thought independence meant doing everything by myself. Now I understand it means creating a life rich with purpose and connection on my own terms." Leo raised his teacup in a toast. "To independence, not as isolation, but as self-determination. To new beginnings," Iris added, "at every stage of life." Amanda's journey from reluctant solitude to purposeful independence didn't happen by chance or simply with the passage of time. It was the result of consciously adopting practices that supported both her practical needs and her emotional well-being. These same practices can transform your experience of living independently, whether you're newly on your own or have been living solo for years. The morning ritual that connects you to nature, the creative passion that pulls you forward into each Day, the support network that provides practical assistance and human connection. These are foundation stones for a life of dignity and meaning. Mastering digital tools that truly enhance your life, designing your living space for both safety and joy, and becoming an informed advocate for your health build upon that foundation. Finding meaningful ways to contribute to your community, developing a philosophy for embracing change, creating a legacy project to share your wisdom, cultivating relationships with younger generations, and embracing a mindfulness practice for emotional resilience. Complete the framework for thriving independently. None of these practices require extraordinary resources or abilities. They don't demand that you become someone other than who you are. Instead, they invite you to draw upon your existing strengths, experiences, and wisdom while remaining open to new possibilities. How might your life change if you implemented even 3 of these practices consistently? Which ones resonate most deeply with your current circumstances? Perhaps it's time to reimagine your living space, not just for functionality, but for joy. Maybe you've been longing for a creative outlet that engages your mind and spirit. Or perhaps you're ready to share your accumulated wisdom through a legacy project that will benefit generations to come. The beauty of these practices is that each small step creates momentum for the next. Amanda didn't transform her life overnight. She began with morning walks by the ocean. This led to conversations with Leo, which opened the door to the writing, a group which connected her to the broader community. Each practice reinforced and expanded the others, gradually weaving a tapestry of meaningful independent living. What will your first step be? Will you reach out to strengthen your support network beyond family? Will you design a morning ritual that grounds your day? Or perhaps you'll explore a mindfulness practice that helps you navigate the emotional terrain of living solo. Whatever you choose, remember that thriving independently isn't about achieving perfection in solitude. It's about creating intentional connections to nature, to others, to meaningful activities, and to your own inner resources. It's about building a life that honors both your need for autonomy and your need for belonging. As Amanda discovered in her coastal cottage, the later years of life can be a time of unexpected growth and discovery, the freedom to shape your days according to your own values and preferences is a profound gift. With these essential practices as your guide, you can transform the experience of living alone from one of isolation to one of self-determined purpose and joy. So I ask you, how will you begin to reshape your experience of independent living today? Like and subscribe if you're committed to becoming the best version of yourself. Thanks for watching. Also, your perspective could help someone else. So what's something you wish you had known sooner?